Hey there, it's the Trappings and Trinkets knitting podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole. So let's dive right in. By the way, it's a knitting podcast, but I also like to talk about other things. So buckle up. Here we go. Today is Friday, July. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been on a schedule. It's the last Friday in July. It's the 20-something, 27th, 28th, something like that. Yeah, it's been, I don't know. I like a couple weeks ago, I had a birthday and I knew what day it was that day. And I'm not sure I would have been exactly right had I not had to get on a plane that day. So I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets off a schedule in the summertime. My kids are actually back on the schedule this week because their high school band camp started up. So that's also the reason I have a quiet house here at 2 in the afternoon on a Friday. I thought I'd take a little time to podcast. So speaking of birthdays, if anyone wants to give me a belated birthday present, you could click on the review thing on the iTunes app and you could leave a review for this podcast. I'd appreciate that. I wanted to say some thank yous to the people that have already left reviews. And at this point, it's like 90% people that know me. So the first couple people were Paulo, a good friend of mine, my husband, my mom was in there early on. Ray G 1120, I think that's one of my friends. Sarah Tellefson 74, I know that's a friend, and Knitting Pipeline. So thank you to all the people that I know that have left reviews to support this podcast. I really appreciate that. It's nice to have friends that will take some time to support me. And then I got my first review of someone that I don't think I even know. So extra special thanks to Holly at home because you don't even know me and you were nice enough to leave a review. So thank you very much to all those people that have left reviews. And I think there's one more person that left a star review, but they like iTunes doesn't show me the names of the people that don't leave actual words. So whoever you are, mysterious star rating person, I appreciate you too. Thank you. So leave a review for this podcast or for any other podcast that you enjoy because it helps those podcasts to be higher up in the search so that other people can find them. So I was up late last night because the Senate had their vote on healthcare. And this morning I was very heartened to see social media. There's been a lot of posts thanking John McCain for his vote last night, but also pointing out that there's a couple of women in the Senate who have been opposed to passing junk legislation all along. So I was very glad that all three of those senators were being acknowledged for what they did. Hopefully now things will get back to normal order and maybe this sort of vote will encourage the parties to work together because, you know, after that vote last night, McConnell said something to the effect of like, the Democrats are celebrating tonight. I don't know that that's true. I, as a person who is very concerned about losing those core fundamental parts of the ACA, including things like not kicking people with pre-existing conditions off of insurance or making it completely unaffordable for people that have health conditions. Lifetime caps was another thing that when the ACA came into effect, that was a big relief for me. I happen to have a chronic illness that I have to use a treatment that could be very expensive. I have found a way to get that treatment at a lower cost, but it's still, even at this lower cost, if I had $1 million cap on my policy, I would be probably out of insurance funds after about 10 years. And at that point, I'm in my early 50s, and then what? So there are some core parts of the ACA that I hope stay law of the land. But anything they can do to stabilize markets and to crack down on drug prices, there are steps in the healthcare process that maybe don't need to be as expensive as they are. And I think the best thing they can do at this point is to study systems like the NHS in England or Australia. I think they are ranked 6th in efficiency and care and outcomes. They have higher life expectancy than the United States. So I hope that our Congress takes this opportunity to study those systems that work around the world and to figure out how to implement those back at home. So I'm not saying I'm celebrating, but I'm relieved. And I think that with some bipartisan efforts, we could have a healthcare system to celebrate. It's just the motivation isn't quite there yet. So I was up pretty late watching that vote. But this morning, it's easy to get out of bed when you are up late for a good reason. So hooray for that. Last night, I was at knit night actually, and I was working on a couple projects here. So shall we jump right into that? One of the things that I started working on was that hedgehog fibers yarn that I showed you last week. That's just crazy colors. I think the colorway is called Hula Hoop. And I thought I'd make some little shorty socks, so some little ankle socks. And on this one, I used a Flegel heel, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going to stick with that. I know it looks kind of pointy as it just sits here without my foot in it, but it actually rounds out really nicely once you put your foot into it. But I think I am going to experiment and maybe try just a short row heel or something like that on the next sock. So we'll see what I end up with. But the fit was okay. I think I actually made these slightly like ½ inch or an inch too long as well. So that kind of motivates me to pull it back out and try again, at least from the heel on up. But this sock took me 2 days of very casual knitting. So this is not a big project. And I think when I weighed it after I finished, it was only 20 grams. So I could actually get 5 socks out of this ball, or more likely I'll get 2 pairs of socks, and then I'll use the extra 10 grams for maybe a hexapuff or 2 out of my the quilt that I'm slowly but surely working on, or I could do like heels and toes on a different sock. So one skein of yarn is going to make a lot of socks. So anyway, there's no pattern for that. It's just a toe up. I use Judy's Magic Cast On. I cast on, I think, 24 stitches, so 12 on each needle. I knit until I was about to, I'm not sure, so your foot it's kind of flat, and then it kind of starts getting tall for your ankle. So I'm not sure what that point is where it goes from foot to ankle, but that's where I stop knitting my sock length, and then I do the heel. So I don't know. Flegel heel, and then I just did maybe an inch of 2x1 ribbing for the ankle part here. So anyway, so if you want to make them, that's how to do it. Another current project. This is out of the Kismet Fiber Arts camel and silk blend that I bought when I was on vacation in Florida earlier this month. These are called World War gloves. And they're just a nice fingerless glove, and they have kind of these little welty bits. So they're on both sides. And my intention for these is that when we go to band competitions in the fall, because we have I say we have a big school. We actually don't have that big of a school. It's like 1,300 kids, which, I mean, it's not a small school, but it's not big. But we do have a big band. So out of that 1,300 kids, this year I think we have just over 200 in the band. So we have a big band. At most of the competitions that our kids go to, they are the biggest band. So band competitions usually have the smallest bands performing early and then the biggest bands performing at night, which means our performances are always at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. And in the fall, especially like towards the end of September and in October, it gets a little chilly. So, I mean, it's not frigid January chilly, but it's, when you're just sitting there not doing anything, it gets pretty chilly in the stands. So I wanted to have something that I could wear on my hands, but I like to take pictures, so I didn't want to have my fingers covered up. So I thought these would be good for being at the band competitions. And I'm going to take them off because they're actually really warm. So anyway, World War G is the name of that pattern. And yeah, that camel silk yarn is it's nice and squishy. Oh, and I should mention, the pattern is written for, it's like a light DK. It's called Lambrosia, I believe, and it's llama, maybe some wool, maybe it's just those two. It's kind of like it's a fiber that I don't use a lot, and I can't remember exactly what it is. But anyway, it's a DK weight-ish, kind of more like sport. But the gauge of that pattern is 23, I think, stitches over 4 inches. And I could get that with a single strand of this yarn. But because this is fingering weight yarn, I actually knit up an entire fingerless glove, and it was just very flimsy. So I decided to pull it out and then double the yarn, pull this strand, and then also hold it together with this strand from the side. So I would knit the entire glove with these 2 strands doubled, and it's just like knitting a thicker yarn. And that made a really nice and squishy glove. So now it's nice and thick and squishy and warm. And so I would recommend that if you want to do the World War G gloves pattern out of a fingering weight yarn, you should just hold it double, and you'll probably get real close to gauge. I think I did it on a size 2 needle, which I think that was the size that the pattern recommended. So that is a easy way to kind of make the light DK yarn just using fingering. And with this 100 gram skein, it's going to use most of the skein to make the 2 gloves, but I actually did, let's see, where's my leftover? I split the skein in half before I started. So I started with a 50 gram ball, and then this is what's left over. So, I mean, this is a significant amount of yarn. Like, I could have probably done another 1.5 or 2 inches if I wanted to, but I just don't want to make them that long. So with a 100 gram skein of fingering weight yarn, you can definitely double the yarn and still have a little bit left over. So there you go. That's my tip for yarn substitutions. Let's see. A third, well, my finished project. I'm sorry you have to look at this again. But there's a new development, if I can just find it. I finished this blanket a week or 2 ago, but I finally put the little inscription on it, and I just decided to do hand embroidery. So the inscription is on the front, and then on the back, that does not show through. So that's the nice thing about hand embroidery, is that you only see it on one side. And then if, you know, the people that receive this blanket don't want that inscription to show, then they can just turn it over. So I don't know. I thought it was a nice sentiment. Out of many, one. So seems like a welcoming thing to say. So I think those are my projects, my finished project and my 2, well, actually I had a finished sock and a finished fingerless glove, but I have to do the matching pieces to those sets. That's all I've been working on this week, and I actually wanted to cast on for a tank top, and it's called a pivot tank top, and I think it was in Knit Scene, their summer 2017 issue. But my yarn shop ran out of that issue, so I'm just going to have to download it off the Interweave site. I don't love doing that because I would much rather have Ravelry downloads that can go directly into my Ravelry library. So I don't love downloading things from third-party websites. It's just one more password and login to keep track of. So I don't know if you are a person or a company that has that. Something to consider. People really like to have patterns all in the same place in their Ravelry library. So I would actually rather have a physical magazine in my house that I can put on my bookshelf than have to track a pattern down on a third-party website. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, the pivot tank was the tank top that I wanted to do, and I think it's written for DK, but I'm difficult. So I thought, I had shown you a sweater, this was probably a couple months ago, that I had inexplicably started knitting out of fingering weight yarn. This is Malabrigo sock yarn. Even though the pattern was written for worsted, I think, and I don't know why I didn't even read that word. Like I legitimately started with fingering weight yarn thinking, oh yeah, this is made out of fingering weight yarn. Oh, I know what it was. It was that the gauge on that sweater was like 24 stitches over 4 inches. So I looked at that and I was like, yeah, fingering. It didn't quite compute that. I think maybe they were going over like a cabled section, which obviously that will take more stitches to do 4 inches. So it was just me. It was my own problem. It wasn't anything wrong with the pattern. But anyway, so I finally admitted that I wasn't going to finish this fingering weight sweater. I only had like 5 or 6 inches knit up. So it wasn't a big deal. I just pulled it out, and now I have 3 skeins of Malabrigo sock yarn, and I think it would be a nice tank top. So I'm going to hopefully cast on the pivot tank, maybe later today. That'll be my weekend fun. My other weekend fun is going to be cleaning the house and cooking, because part of band camp is that all the sections at lunchtime, like the clarinets or the flutes or the percussion or whatever, they divide up into groups, and then that whole section goes to one of the members' houses for lunch. So the parents take turns cooking meals, and Monday is my turn. So my children are actually both in the percussion section, so that's convenient. But there's 41 kids in that section this year, and like they used to split up the drum line and the pit percussion, so about half of the kids would go to one house and the other half would go to another house, and they put them all in the same group this year. So I didn't know that when I volunteered. And like my house is not, I do not live in a mansion. I have a 6-person dining table that if I put the leaf in, I could squish 8 people at. And then I've got a 4-person table in the kitchen. So it'll be interesting. I think miraculously I counted up all the chairs, and between household furniture, patio furniture, and then one of my cars has a table, like, you know how your spare tire has a thing over it, just like a flat thing? In one of our cars, that flat thing is a fold-up table. So I've got that table. I've got my craft table that I do my sewing on. But between everything that I think we have around here, I think I have seating for about 30. So it might not be too bad, except for the fact that part of the seating is going to have to be like in the middle of the living room. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully it won't be a super hot, stinky, sweaty day, because 40 smelly teenagers would be interesting. Let's see. I was going to show you the other knitting project that I'm actually wearing today, and that is the top that I have on. This is my tank top. The Beekeeper tank is what it's called. Pattern is called Beekeeper tank. If you look at the pattern pictures, you'll see that I'm in them because it's a pattern that I wrote, and I really like this tank top. I like the gathered little yoke part here, because without doing, it's been a few years. I think I wrote this pattern about 5 years ago. I don't think that there's a lot of decreases. In fact, there might not be any decreases. I believe that, as you can see, the bottom of this tank top is nice and flowy, and this is not flowy. This is very fitted up here. So the extra flowiness just comes from the fact that the gauge on this is a lot smaller than the gauge on the stockinette stitch. So it's just a nice, it was a nice way to do the shaping, I guess. I like the shape of the armholes on this one. The neckline is a nice open scoop neck, but it's not super low. The armholes, I like my armholes on tank tops to be, high enough that my bra and my armpit fat is not hanging out. So if you're like me, you might like the fit of this tank top too. And in the back, you can see that nothing hangs out. So I like the fit of this. And then the finishing along all the edges is just an I-cord. So it's not a difficult tank top to do. If you're a person that gets lost in the marathon of stockinette, This one might give you a little bit of pause, but I don't know. I like marathons of stockinette for road trips. I like it for watching movies. I like it for being in a waiting room, you know, just being able to pick it up and do some rows and then putting it back down. I like that. I don't have to pull the pattern out to know what to do next. So I don't have a problem at all with, with vast swatches of stockinette. And also, if I go to knit night and take a purely stockinette project, well, I'm a much more social person than if I'm sitting there, what's next? What do I do now? So it's good for social knitting as well. So the Beekeeper Tank is the name of this top. And the yarn, I regret to inform you that the dyer of this yarn, her name is January Yarns. I don't think she dyes anymore. So you can't get exactly this yarn, but it is a pretty standard to slightly thin-ish fingering weight yarn. So, I mean, there's a ton of things you could substitute. I would say it is along the lines of like a Malabrigo sock. So anything that is similar to that would work really well. So that's what I'm wearing. All right. Here's the real excitement this week. This is what has really been keeping me busy for the last week or so. I have been making project bags, and I'm so excited about this one right here. So this is my Rock Icons bag. It has lots of different artists. Can you recognize them? There's Bono. Oh, let's see. She's here. These people are on the back also, so we'll show them with their full heads. You recognize Madonna. I think this one's Michael Jackson. Cyndi Lauper. Prince. This is my Prince bag because you see it has a purple zipper and purple thread right here. If you send me a message on Etsy, like when you check out, there's a field that says message to seller. You can put in that message to seller, like, I want a Bono bag, and I'll make sure that Bono is somewhere very visible. I'll make sure he's not like hanging out here on the side or kind of like sewn into the bottom. I'll make sure he's on the front somewhere. And I'll also match, like, well, if it was Bono, that wouldn't be very exciting because you'd probably get like a white zipper. If it was someone a little more colorful, like Cyndi Lauper, maybe I'd put an orange zipper on there to kind of bring her out. Let's see, we've got Tina Turner, and we've got some people on the bottom here. We've got Diana Ross and Jimi Hendrix. Who's that? Oh, there's David Bowie. He kind of got sewn into the side. Well, he's Ziggy Stardust over there, isn't he? And then this lady right here, you recognize Janis Joplin. She's looking a little... See, if you want a Janis Joplin bag, she won't be hiding in the corner. And then, let's see, we got Slash. And, oh, there's the lady from the front with her head cut off. I think that's Whitney Houston. There's the boss, Billy Idol. And I think that's Robert Smith from The Cure. Here we've got Mr. Queen. What's his name? Freddie Mercury. Boy George. George Michael's not on here, I don't think. Now, let's see. There's Michael Jackson again. I think you've seen all of these. I brought another one because there's so many rock icons on this fabric. I couldn't even fit them all on one bag. There's some of those same people on the top row that you already saw. Oh, there's David Bowie. Now, this guy, at first I thought that was Michael Jackson, but now that I look at him again, I think that might be Marilyn Manson. Maybe. If you know who that is, tell me. Because I'm not 100% sure. And this is another one that I kind of felt like maybe it's pink, but then I think pink would have pink hair. I don't know who has white hair that looks like that. And this is another one. I have no idea who that is. But I do recognize Amy Winehouse and Jack White. Who's down there? Oh, we already saw you. You're all repeats. And let's see. Oh, over here, who are these two? See, I recognize that guy. That's definitely Kurt Cobain. I didn't know who that was until I put it in the context of Kurt Cobain, and I think that's Courtney Love. So I think I have, between those two bags, I think I did show you most of the people. If you're interested, you can go to my Etsy shop, and I do have one of the photographs is just plain old, like this is the fabric, this is what it looks like. It's not the greatest resolution, but I think you can see who everyone is. But anyway, so if you want a rock icon bag, let me know if there's a particular rock icon you'd like me to feature, and if I have that rock icon available in the size that you want, I will go ahead and do it. If I don't, because I do already have the bags cut, I just don't have them sewn together because I don't know what color the zippers are going to be. So if I don't have exactly what you want, I will message you and say, well, I don't have Janis Joplin in a 400 gram bag. I don't know if that's true. I'm just giving an example. I don't have exactly what you ordered, but I could do Janis Joplin in a 600 gram bag, or I could do a different rock icon for your featured one if you want the smaller bag, or you can also, if you can cancel your order if I can't give you what you want. So you can message me, or if you genuinely don't care and you just kind of like the whole idea, just say, I don't care, send me anything, it's fine. Because I do have a couple already made up, so I would just send you one immediately and you wouldn't even have to wait. So if you do order a custom one, you may have to wait. I think I put 7 to 14 days on there, and that's just to give me, you know, a little grace time just in case something comes up. The last order that I did, I think I did it the next day, so it might not be 7 to 14 days. Anyway, I think I have 6 other styles out of this batch, and I love them too. Maybe I don't love them as much as I love the rock icons, but I love them like 95% as much. So here's Cats with Books, library full of cats, and not only do you get books, but they have bird pun titles. Stalking in the Rain, The Thorn Birds, To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay, that's not really a pun. Maybe they're just cat-related titles. Of Mice and Men, of course. But some of them are puns. Eat, Pray, Lick. There you go. That one's a pun. Are You There, God? It's Me, Kitten. So anyway, cats and books. Oh, and the interior on this one is mice. Little mice. And they have little tabs. And these tabs will have metal rings attached to them when I send them out. And those are nice. They hold, they can hold your stitch markers. They, you know, if you have one of those little chain, I don't have one with me, one of those little scissor things that have a chain on it, you could hook that, different notions. Or you can also use it for color work. If you're working with more than one color of yarn, you thread each skein through one of those metal rings, and then that keeps your colors separate in the bag so the yarn doesn't just like get as tangled up as it would without the rings. So it's nice for that too. I didn't show you the interior to the rock icon bag. It's just like a black fabric with white polka dots. And this one, well, I'll save that one because I was going to say something about that. Here's some hedgehogs. They are wearing scarves and eating apples and frolicking in a field with a lot of tree stumps. And inside, it's colorful donuts, because hedgehogs and donuts, right? I don't know. It was the same color. I thought they were both cute. They seemed like they go together. I think that was like a 600 gram size. So I like that size for sweaters. This cat one, that's a fairly small size, like a 300 gram. So you could still, you know, easily put a shawl in there. And each of these does come in more than one size. Most of them come in 2 sizes. A couple of them come in 3 sizes. I kind of have a cat theme going on. Usually I try not to buy more than one cat fabric for each batch of bags I make, but this is one, like, okay, first of all, I had to buy that Cats and Books. And this one, every time I go to a certain fabric online source that I use, I look at this fabric and I'm like, I love that fabric. I love the colors. Like, I love the mid-century retro sort of vibe to it. And I haven't ordered it yet because it was a little bit more expensive than I try to keep my fabrics being, so that I can keep my prices where they are. But I figure, you know, I look at this fabric every time I go to this site, so I just need to get it. So inside, perfectly coordinated, exact same colors. We've just got some fancy bursts. And on the outside, it's bowling pin cats. Bowling pin cats. Ta-da! I think that was like a 400 gram size. This is one of 2 Day of the Dead cat bags that are going to come out of this batch. This was actually leftover fabric from a previous group of Day of the Dead cats that I did, and they like immediately sold out. But I didn't have enough zippers to finish all of them at that time. So if you wanted it last time, but you just didn't get on board soon enough, now's your chance. I've got 2 of them. That's it. Day of the Dead fancy sugar skulls. I don't know, wearing jewelry on the inside. And the Day of the Dead cats with Day of the Dead fish right here on the outside. Who is happy about Doctor Who? I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan. My family all watches it. It's fine. Like, it's not something that I would seek out to watch by myself just because I'm not a big sci-fi person. But when I heard that they were going to regenerate the Doctor again, I thought, you know, with the way things are right now, wouldn't it be nice if they finally just picked a woman? So I was very happy when they made the announcement that we're going to have a lady doctor coming up here. So in honor of that, here's the TARDIS, the exploding TARDIS. On the inside, those bad old Daleks. So if you want to celebrate the new Doctor, here's your chance. And last but not least, another program. You recognize that silhouette with that house and those little, let's see, we've got a teapot and set, we've got a book, some flowers. This is an Anne of Green Gables bag. And on the inside, it's just a pink fabric that has some quotes from the book/TV series, and like some stamps that are related to the author or to Anne or to Canada, all that kind of thing. So have you watched the new Anne of Green Gables on, I think it's on Netflix. And so I have to say, I recognize my bias here. I was a kid at the time that, I believe it was a Canadian series that ran on PBS back in the maybe very late 80s or early 90s. Megan Follows was the woman or the girl that played Anne at the time, and that was such a sweet, just really fun. You know, it was such a great series. It was so well done. I think I read all the books after watching that series on PBS. I read all, 6 books from Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea, Anne of the Island, Anne of everywhere. Like, I read it all the way through. Her and Gilbert were married. They had, he was a doctor and she was a teacher, I think. Now I'm forgetting. All right, it was like 25 years ago that I read it. But anyway, I read it until they were well into adulthood. And I really have a soft spot for that series. And also, like, Gilbert, what was his name? Matthew something? I forgot his last name. But anyway, who didn't have a big crush on him? Not just because he was cute, but also, like, the character of Gilbert was a really sweet guy. So I do have a very special place in my heart for that series. The new Anne of Green Gables, right off the bat, I was like, I am not going to like this. It was just like, I think I described it after the first episode. I think I described it to my husband as like, if Tim Burton got his hands on Anne of Green Gables, this is the series that would result. It had some flashbacks. It emphasized some of like the darker parts of being an orphan or Anne's past, that kind of stuff that the series from the 80s/90s just really didn't even touch on at all. But also the Anne that is in the current series is, she is not as dreamy and as romantic a character as the Megan Follows Anne. And I kind of feel like, having read all the books, like that character, that Megan Follows Anne, for me, matched the books a little bit more than like this Anne that is slightly more jaded with life. So I won't say it's not that I didn't like it. It was fine. And I did watch all 6, I think, episodes that are in the first series that is on Netflix right now. But it's a little dark. So this bag right here, this is a bag that reflects Anne of Green Gables circa 1990. If it was the Anne of Green Gables from today, it would have to have like this cat that's on here. Where's that cat? There she is. That cat right there would have to have like fangs. And the Anne of Green Gables, or the house, the Green Gables house, would have to have the steps on the porch would have to be decrepit and falling down. So this is the idealized version of Anne of Green Gables. Speaking of tragic stories, I think early on in this podcast, I gave a book recommendation for a book called The Kitchen House by Kathleen Grissom. That was one of my favorite books that I read last year. And when I mentioned that book on the podcast, one of the people that saw that podcast, Wendy, thank you, she commented and said, hey, did you know there was a sequel written to that book? And I was like, no, thank you for telling me. So this summer, I took the opportunity to read the sequel, and I'm not done with it yet. I'm maybe about halfway through. But it is called Glory Over Everything, and it is also by Kathleen Grissom. And it is the story, so the kitchen house focuses on a character named Lavinia, but it is also the story of the family. She's an orphan. She ends up with a family. So there's a bunch of characters there, and then they're on a plantation. So there's also the slaves that work on the plantation. There's actually a family there, and then a bunch of other characters. And then there's a couple of villainous people that also work for the family that I believe are not. They're white people that work with kind of like over the slaves, but they're mean and terrible. So anyway, in the white family, there is a son, and then there's a slave woman, and those two got together and had a baby. And that baby, when he was born, obviously a half black, half white child, but he looks more white than black. And so he is raised to believe that he's white. He is raised with the white family. And at the end of the kitchen house, something very tragic happens. So I don't want to ruin it in case you want to read it, but, well, so I say tragic, but actually it depends on your perspective. So a big thing happens, and it concerns the son, the half black, half white son. And so the sequel book, Glory Over Everything, that picks up the story with what happened afterwards. So this book is focusing purely on the son so far. I mean, I don't know, maybe some of the other characters are going to come back later in the story, but right now it's still just the son, and it's just kind of his life after that thing happens, and now he is kind of doing his own thing. So it's a really good book. This Kathleen Grissom is a really excellent writer. I really should look up to see if she has other books, because I like her writing style a lot, and I also like historical fiction. So, you know, that's what this is. 2 product reviews. My first product review is something that I'm just going to admit that sometimes I do not go to sleep as early as I should, and I end up in my bed looking through websites that I don't need to be looking through. I really should be sleeping. But at those times, I have had it happen that I make weird purchases that I would not make during the day. So that happened earlier this summer when I thought I would try an Amazon Dash button. And the reason that I did it was because there was like a special. These things are $5 if you buy them just any regular old day. There was a special, and they were running a promotion where you pay 99 cents for the button, and then the first time you press it to order the thing that it's connected to, then they deducted $5 from the cost of that thing. So I went with the toilet paper Dash button, and it's something I buy anyway, so I just pressed it for the first time. This week, and today I got an enormous box of toilet paper delivered. So my husband was kind of like, why did you buy that button? Here's the reason why. There are certain things that I do not love to get at the store. Those things are the things that take up a lot of room in my cart. So kitty litter is one of them, and toilet paper is another thing. We really don't buy a lot of big household products like that. So I guess those are my two pet peeves of buying at the store. So to me, I did look at the prices, and if we bought like the cheapest toilet paper that we could find of this brand, I like certain brands for certain things. So like if we went to Walmart, bought this exact toilet paper, it would cost about $2 less. So to me, is it worth $2 extra to have that thing delivered to my house whenever I want it? To me, it is. Now, if my husband wants to go to Walmart and buy that toilet paper, great, that's fine. But it's not an errand that I want to put into my schedule for that $2. Other people may have a different system of calculating the value. And in this instance, because the first time I bought it, it was $5 off. It was actually cheaper for me to have it delivered to my house. So I don't know how much I'll end up using it. But for things that you buy a lot of, or if you find out that it is cheaper to buy that thing on Amazon, they have these buttons for Cliff Bars, for Glad products, for paper towels, for Izzy soda. I think there was like chips. There was a lot. They're called Amazon dash buttons, and you could use it as your keychain. But they have a little peel and stick thing on the back, so I could put this in my linen closet, stick it to the wall, and when I notice that the toilet paper is getting low, I just press the button. Now you might think, I'm a mom that has little kids, and if I had a button like that in my linen closet, I would be getting toilet paper deliveries every day. Well, you won't, and the reason is because when your kid presses the button, even after you told them, don't press this button unless mommy tells you to push the button, if they push that button, a text is going to come to your phone that says, hey, you just ordered blah, blah, blah. And then if you didn't order blah, 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 you can go into your Amazon account and cancel the order. I think you have 30 minutes to do that. So don't be scared that if you get the Izzy soda button that your kids are going to be, flooding the house in Izzy soda. There is a check in that system. So I don't know. I thought it's kind of a fun little thing. And if it's for something that you use a lot or something that is bulky and just kind of a pain to drag home, great. I'm not sure I would use it for too many things, but it's an interesting idea. The other product I was going to show you was something I'm very excited about. As a lactose intolerant person, there are a few things that I have had trouble finding substitutions for. I've had this problem for 25 years, and in the last 10 years, things are exponentially easier than they were when I was a teenager or a young adult. At that point, it was really like, well, I can either just try to avoid all lactose, which you might think, well, that's just dairy. It's not just dairy. Like hot dog buns, a lot of bread has lactose in it. It's a lot of pre-made foods. Like, sure, I can still eat fruits and vegetables. I could still eat meat. But that's about it. That's about the only things that you don't have to make sure there's no lactose in. So at that point, it was really difficult to eat a really low lactose or lactose-free diet. In the last 10 years, so many things have been made that are either soy-based, tofu-based, like the sour cream that I use, the cream cheese that I use, those are both tofu, sour cream, and cream cheese. But one of the things that I have not been able to find up till very recently was whipped cream. So like Cool Whip and I know Cool Whip says it's dairy-free. I got news for you. My guts say it is not dairy-free. So I don't know exactly what they think dairy-free means, but my stomach would like to disagree with that assessment of Cool Whip. But I found, actually I think a friend of mine, Gina, I think you told me this, that there is So Delicious Cocoa Whip. It's made out of coconut milk, and it's really good. I'm not a big coconut person, but I feel like this has a very light taste. It does taste a little bit. It tastes like 10% coconutty, but to me that's not bad. Like if you gave me just something flavored coconutty, I would not like it. But this I like just fine. And especially because you're usually putting whipped cream on something else, that coconut taste is very, very marginal. So I happened to make some desserts this week. The owner of my yarn shop had a birthday this month too, so I thought I'd bring a birthday treat to knit night last night, and I went with these little key lime tarts, and I used this coconut whipped cream. If you are a lactose intolerant person who likes a good creamy refreshing dessert, you might like this recipe a lot. I'll link to it in the show notes. It has key lime yogurt, which you might say, wait a minute, doesn't that have lactose? It does, but yogurt is much more easily digestible than milk because of the bacteria and in the yogurt, and it has a much lower lactose load than a lot of other dairy products. So a lot of people that are lactose intolerant can eat yogurt. And then I also there's gelatin in there, and there is whipped cream in there, and some lime juice. So it's a really easy recipe. Honestly, it takes like 15 minutes maybe to put together, and really probably half that time is just wait, because you have to boil water to mix the gelatin in to begin the process, and then you have to cool that down before you add the other ingredients. So most of that time is actually just spent putting that liquid in the freezer to cool it down enough to add the other ingredients. So you're not sitting there for 15 minutes busily doing things. It's like 2 minutes of work spread out over 15 minutes. So it's a really quick, easy dessert, and it seems to be a crowd pleaser. I've not served it to anyone yet that has been repulsed by it. So it's just a nice, limey, creamy, refreshing summer dessert, and easy to make low to no lactose substitutions for. But if you're somebody that says bring on the dairy, you could totally make it the way you want to. It would be good either way. I think that's all I have for today. So thank you for spending time with me. And if you want to leave a review, go to the iTunes app, and if you search the name of the podcast, put that in the top. When you click go or click search, down at the bottom you'll see an icon with that podcast's little picture, and if you click on that, it will bring up the page that you can leave a review on. So I appreciate anybody who's willing to do that, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye!